Let's talk about trend trading. Why trend trading is also Bay. And no one needs to ask me, what do I trade? I'm not going to tell you what I trade because your mind is going to say, well, let's just copy what he does and then we'll be successful. No. It's even to the point where I barely even show my charts because I don't want my charting to influence the way you trade. My job is to be a facilitator to help you with how to trade, not to trade like me. So let's talk about trend trading. And what this issue is meant to solve. With this strategy, the rhombus, you're looking at understanding when a trend changes in direction. It's the biggest issue a lot of traders have. They don't know when the trend finishes. The question you should always ask in trend trading is, when did the trend start and when did it finish? Because then it will help you identify what to do in the next trend, whether it be uptrend or downtrend. And so we're going to be using the rhombus. Then we're going to be using another strategy to be able to help us with this. So I'm going to teach both the strategies. Then we're going to go into the charts to look at them. And then you're off to do your homework about which strategy you like best and then demonstrating them on your own charts. Okay, so let's talk about the rhombus. If you don't know, I'm sure you all know that the rhombus and the rectangle are the brainchild of me, right? And the rhombus, in fact, geometry has garnered me more enemies because one thing everybody wants to be able to do is create something that will outlive them. I know that the rhombus is going to be around. It's going to be a case study in maybe 100 years when people are looking back, and it's going to be in the same breath as Elliott wave and harmonics and all that stuff because it's so unique. And the backstory of this was that I was trading in my early days, you know, after I got the prophecy. I'm sure you guys remember the story, and I was on fire, and I joined this MLM starting with K that was pretty much a massive scam group anyway. But through that, I was able to get experience and get a lot of notoriety. And I then formed a group called Breaking Pips Academy. And I was a massive indicator trader, and a lot of people followed me. And I remember, like, I was at my peak at that time. I was only about 6 months in. I thought this Forex stuff was easy. And then things started getting into my head, and I was doing a lot of things at once. So simultaneously, I was doing Zoom calls, I was doing signals, and I was also doing copy trading. And the issue with that is that I could do all of them separately, but doing all of them at the same time really wore me down. And so it got to a point where I wasn't sleeping because I always had to watch the market. The copy trading guys are complaining that they're in drawdown. The signal guys are complaining that it's taking too long. You have to answer all these different questions and all that stuff. So when you say that you've made a payment to Breaking Pips Academy, I kept that there to remind me of where I came from. And so one day, that's why I told everyone to turn off their videos. Hold on. Hold on. If your video is on, I'm just taking you off. Bye-bye. Poor Nafisa. She just finished praying. All right. So, like I was saying, so I was at the pinnacle of success, and then things started going bad, and leaders starting to leave, getting deals with other companies and whatnot, and then everything just went upside down, and I just wanted to quit. So someone pray for Nafisa, please. So I quit, and I remember I went through this in detail in the Rhombus group. It was actually a few people. It was about 5 people that held me up, and they still support me to this very day. Number one at the top of the list was Luca. People want to always know why there's this strange relationship between myself and Luca. What do we have in common? Luca was the guy that bugged me every day for 6 months. I remember the day I decided to quit Forex. It was actually GBP that blew my account. And it was back when Theresa May was doing all this nonsense. And so it felt like things were unpredictable and all of that stuff. So I remember Luca was in my inbox every day, like, dude, if you quit, so many other people who had hope in Forex are going to quit. So this guy bugged me every day for 6 months. Another guy that encouraged me was Dominic Mills. You see him around as well. I'm not sure if he's on this call, but he's also a guy that really held me up. And Phil George from Australia also held me up. There are a few people as well that held me up in that downtime. And so in this period where I was relying on indicators and relying on, all these other things to get me through, I then wanted to just get rid of all of it. I tried joining signal groups and I was paying like $200 a month, joined 4 or 5 different signal groups. It just wasn't working. And then one of the signal admins pulled me aside and he said, look, you have a brain that will be able to think of something. You shouldn't be relying on signals. You should be giving them. So next month, please don't pay. This was a guy that was relying on his commissions from my payment. And he was telling me I shouldn't pay. And so when I was in my time of quitting, I remember having that wilderness time with God, and God was just like, everything you need to know about trading and everything you need to know about who I am, they are the same. So if you're able to understand how I think, you are able to understand how money works, then you'll be able to understand how Forex works. So then I went into a spree of understanding the Illuminati, what they did, what their main mission was, and how they are a carbon copy, diluted, of what was set in Christendom, and how their journey started in Babylon, and how, Abraham at the time was, and like he's a descendant of the Babylonian Empire, the Ur of the Chaldeans. And so you know that the kingdom of Babylon was rooted in witchcraft, and Abraham had to take himself out of that equation. But then what we began to learn is why Babylon was always against Israel. And so it made me so fascinated about how God wanted the temple dimensions to be a specific way, how he wanted the tabernacle to be a specific way, how he wanted the ark to be built in a specific way. And I'm like, man, this God is very specific about a lot of things. So I started going through about how, the reason the number 6 is so important is not because 666 is everywhere. 6 is not a bad number. Man was made on the 6th day. So if man was made on the 6th day, it represents the strength of man. And the reason why the enemy uses the 666 is because he can't go to the next level. So I was just getting all these revelations and I was just chewing it up. And then I realized that, hey, if I just focus on the way the markets move in a monetary or a numerical aspect, I'll be able to have an edge in the market. So then I developed a theory called the triangle theory, where I was just using triangles to, make my way through. And then from there, I was able to give birth to the rhombus. And then the rhombus, I mean, many of you know, it led me to opportunities, giving trade signals for a big company, traveling around the world, teaching and all that stuff. So the rhombus is very, very special to me. And that's why I always want people to remember that when you're trading this and the rectangle, because the rectangle came from the rhombus, you are trading something sacred. And that's why it's able to get the results it's getting. So let's get into the rhombus. Rhombus is a 4-sided shape. I don't want to say too much that's in the rhombus mastery course, but I do recommend you get that. So the rhombus is a 4-sided shape, just like the rectangle. Okay, and it consists of 2 triangles. Okay, one triangle is used for the measurement of structure. The other triangle is used for projection of trade. Okay, there are 6 different types of rhombuses. We're only going to learn 1. Okay, there are 6. And the rhombus is pretty much coined to help you identify catching the earliest part of the trend and maximizing your profit with it. Okay, so let's go into how this rhombus looks. The general rhombus that you'll be learning is called the regular rhombus. This is the rhombus that everyone is going to be introduced to. And you'll see that it has 4 sides, and every part of the rhombus is as important as the other. So this is how your rhombus is supposed to look. Now we're going to get to a point of how can you plot this in your charts. That's the most important thing. And what are the things that we need to look for in order to be able to have the safest trade and to be able to have good trades all the way through? If you're still on the call, type in a Y or a yes so we can proceed. So what's part of the rhombus? There's a formula you need to remember, and that is the aspect of space, time, angle. If you get the first triangle right, that is where this formula has been derived from, everything else will be right. However, if you get the first triangle wrong, then everything else is going to be wrong. Okay? The rhombus is far more complicated than the rectangle, but people just seem to like the rhombus. So here we go. What is space? Space is the impulse move. So let's say, for example, price has been in a downtrend and it's been able to form a nice, delicious looking impulse move. Now the whole world is going to think that the market is going down because of the sharpness of the impulse move, but we know better. So space is simply the distance between the top of the impulse and the bottom of the impulse. Okay, type in 1 if you understand that. Top of the impulse, bottom of the impulse. Okay, now after an impulse, what naturally takes place? After an impulse, what naturally takes place? After an impulse, what naturally takes place? Correction. Very good. So what happens after the impulse is a perceived correction, and that is why a lot of people will not catch the reversal when it is supposed to be caught, because people are thinking that the next move that will take place is going to be another impulse. So we have a correction over here, but time is the element where you're waiting for all things to garner momentum. So this time aspect actually has 2 corrections. However, the second correction is perceived to be an impulse to everybody else. Okay, so you have correction number 1 over here. You have correction number 2 over here. And this is all part of time. Okay, so space is distance between beginning of the impulse to the end of the impulse. We all know what an impulse move is. Then there's a correction, and then there is a perceived second, a perceived impulse, but it's our second correction. So when you find all of those things, that is where you draw your first triangle. So let's label these aspects so we know exactly what it is. The beginning of anything, whether it's the alphabet or in numbers, is A. A is 0, A is beginning. So we have A, and then we have the end of the impulse, which is B. So when it comes to our formula, space is AB. Okay, type in AB in the chat box if you understand this. Space is just the distance between AB, so it's going to look like this. What is time? Time is the distance between B and the next point, which is going to be labeled as C. So this is C. So when we're talking about time, we're talking about BC. And so when you get your space and when you get your time, you can draw your first triangle that will allow you to cover everything inside of it. And the angle is going to help you cover everything. You got to make sure that price is contained inside the first triangle. An angle is the distance between A and C. You will notice that now every letter is mentioned twice. Space AB, time BC, angle AC. And AC is what is going to help you fit all of price inside the first triangle. Can everybody see that price is contained inside? Price is the black arrow that I've been able to draw. Type in AC if you understand that price is contained inside. Great. Okay. So time is where the two corrections are together, and it's the longest period that you need to wait for in the rhombus. But if you get all of these things correct, now you can form your four-sided shape, and that second triangle is going to help you with the projections of the market. Okay, so how do we get our third side of the rhombus? What we do is we copy the distance between A and B, and what we do is that we move that distance over to where C is. So now we have a new starting point of C, and now it's led us to form a third side, and that third side completion is called D. So what do we have over here? We're pretty much saying that because we've been able to get the distance of AB, and it's the exact same distance as CD, we are now saying distance of AB is directly proportionate to CD. Exact same. Type in ABCD in the chat box if you're with me on this point. ABCD. Okay, so AB equals CD. It means that the same length, same everything. You don't need to manipulate it to make it look better. So how do we get our fourth side? We now get the distance of B to C, and then we move that B to C to match A and D. And now you have your four sides. So over here, what we're saying is that BC, same distance as A and D. Type in BCAD if you are with me on that one. So AB equals CD and BC equals AD. They are all very good. So that's how you get your four sides of your rhombus. Let's quickly recap. The first triangle has the formula of space, time, and angle. Okay, and we're making sure that angle is containing everything within inside the first triangle. This rule, let me make this amendment here. The rule of everything being inside the first triangle is noted to time and angle, not space. Space is only allowing you to get the projection of the future. So when you're trying to draw your first triangle, you're not trying to be focused on getting space inside the first triangle. You're focused more on time and angle, okay? So you have all of price that is contained, and now you're saying that if you're looking to buy, where am I looking to buy to? So there are conditions that need to be met. But let's plot our coordinates to know where we're going before we know how to start. D is known as take profit to. In trading, we have targets, or we have multiple targets, all right? And we're saying that D is take profit to, which means that there needs to be a take profit one. How do we find our take profit one? And this is where you see the rectangle and the rhombus are pretty much the same, which is why I'm saying pick one, because in picking one, you've actually picked the other without realizing, okay? So now we've been able to form a pivot inside a rhombus, and that pivot is known as point E, and that E is take profit one. Type in EEE if you understand this one. I think EE means yes, right? In doesn't that mean yes in is it Igbo that it means yes? Oh, how good am I, right? I was thinking that it meant that. I'm studying 9 languages at the moment, so yeah, when it just hit me, I was like, oh, that means something. Okay, anyway, so we've been able to find our rhombus pivot, and that is point E. We found point D, and generally speaking, the rhombus has 3 take profits. How do we find the third take profit? We get the distance of E to D, and that forms a new projection from D to the unknown. ED is equal to D to the unknown. Let me write that down so you see it. The distance of E to D is the same distance of or as E of D to the unknown, dx. Okay, x in algebra is unknown, so x is our take profit 3. Okay, so there you have it. Now you've been able to get your measurement side, your measurement side and your projection side. You've measured with space, time, and angle, and you've projected with E, D, and X. Okay, type in E, D, X if you understand. I'm bringing out all the new ones now. Everyone's saying 1, 1, 1 and 2, 2, 2. So I'm just remixing it up. All right, great. So now, how do you enter the market when it comes to the rhombus? What do you need to do? Remember, all of our concentration so far has been that price is contained inside the first triangle. And the angled part of your rhombus is acting as a counter trend line. Now, yesterday we learned about what counter trend lines mean when it comes to trend trading. And that is when time and price meet and clash. Okay. And it's being demonstrated over here. Let me draw this A to C as a counter trend line. All right. So now what we're waiting for is that we're waiting for price to break this counter trend line. Bang. Once price is able to break and close outside the first triangle, you are safe to go, and preferably a retest. Now let me take 2 minutes to give you pointers about what break and close mean. To me, I say that break and close are the same thing. But because people are coming from other Forex backgrounds, they perceive break to be one thing and close to be another thing. For something to break, okay, let's use this as an example. Let's say this is a bullish candle, okay? And let's say that it's a 4-hour candle, and in hour 3, it has been able to go above this supposed resistance line. This is where a lot of people say that it has broken the resistance line, correct? Type in a Y or a yes if you call this a break of a resistance. Now, the issue at hand is that I mentioned that this candle was in hour 3. It has not finished doing what it's supposed to do. So in order for you to fully know whether it's broken, it needs to finish its 4-hour cycle, and it might even end beneath this line. So now, giving this example, has price really broken that resistance, yes or no? So it went above in hour 3. By the time hour 4 has come, it's now gone back below. So if it has done that, then price has not broken the resistance or the support or that structure. It is only when you get to hour 4 and is able to close above, that's when you can say that it has successfully broken that line. So when I say break and close, I'm only saying that for the benefit of those who have prior knowledge in Forex and have a different idea of what break means. But to me, when I say break, I'm including the close. That it has to finish its full cycle, and it has to be able to, time has to expire on that candle to close above for me to say that it has successfully broken. Don't let it get to hour 3 and think that it has broken. You enter the trade, and then all of a sudden it closes beneath. Because what's going to happen? It's going to blow your account. It might even end up going in the opposite direction. So wait for this to happen. Break over here in this academy means that it has gone beyond the structure and has successfully closed beyond that structure. Capiche? If you're good with that, type in a 111, and I'll go back to this example. So what you're waiting for is that you're waiting for price to now, I can say comfortably now, you're waiting for price to break this counter trend line that has been shown as the angle, which is A to C. After that has taken place, you are generally safe to enter the market when it comes to the rhombus, okay? And this is now going to show you a reversal that has taken place. And many people don't think it's a reversal because this move over here has tricked them to believing that it's a continuation of a downtrend. So by the time they realize that the trend has changed, the market is already up here. It's too late. We have been able to get in down here. Now, we have our targets that have been set. What are they? They're the E, the D, and the X. But what's missing? We even have our entry now. We have our entry, we have our targets, but something else is missing. What do you think that thing is? The most important thing. Stop loss. Very good. So now how do we get our stop loss when it comes to these rhombuses? You see this point of B to C. At times when you're trying to fit everything inside the first triangle, you may get wicks that are like poking through just by a little bit. So what you're doing is in this area, you have to use your discretion to give a stop loss that is suitable for your account. So we generally say that the stop loss should be below C when you are buying or above C when you are selling. We're going to do a bearish regular rhombus in a bit. So you're seeing that C is over here. Okay, it's the end of this triangle. So it being below C means that it can be 15 pips, 20 pips, 35 pips. It all depends on what you're willing to risk. But the lowest point might mean that there is a wick over here. So that means you would set your stop loss maybe 15 to 20 pips below that wick. So that's what we say by below C. Your stop loss is going to be below C if you're looking to buy and above C if you're looking to sell. So let's look and see what the bearish rhombus looks like. You have your space, time, and angle. I'm just going to draw this quickly. So you have A is now at the bottom. So this one over here, A, whoops, copy two things. B, end of impulse. C, at the top. D, TP2. Okay, how do we find E? We get a line, draw from B to D. It forms that pivot. That helps you find your E point. And then how do you find take profit 3? You copy the distance of E to D, and it forms D to the unknown. Bang. All right, so we have X down here. Same thing applies, except C is now at the top when it comes to selling. You have your impulse, which is space. You then have your time, a combination of two corrections, and then you're waiting for price to break the first triangle. That's the triangle consisting of A, B, and C. So now, because C is all the way up here, your stop loss should be above C. And that above C has to be in line with how much you're willing to risk in your account. So if you have a $100 account, you're trading 0.01, and you want to risk maybe $3, you can do 30 pips above C, okay? If you don't want to risk that much, then you should probably consider being a range trader, because trend trading has a lot more risk than range trading, but the rewards are quite nice. Take profit 1, E, take profit 2, D, take profit 3, X. And remember, there are 6 different types of rhombuses. They all have different conditions. And what's good about this is that each rhombus is suited to a particular currency in the market. It's suited to a particular currency pair to the market. It has different correlations. There are different conditions that need to be met per rhombus. So if you want to know more about this, I recommend you go straight for the Rhombus Mastery, where it goes in depth covering all 6. So that's how you draw it in the market. So let's look for an example. Let me refer to the example I did in Lagos. I think it was Lagos. It was not last year now. It was Lagos almost 2 years ago. And this is where the rhombus was now rubbing some people the wrong way because it's new and fundamental traders don't really like the technical aspect. And when it comes to being a technical trader and you can say that price is going to go to here, it doesn't matter what anybody says, it's going to ruffle a few feathers because fundamental traders rely on information that will then determine how far the market is going to go. And I think some of you were there when it happened. Sophia, were you there? I'm pretty sure Sophia was there when it happened live, where I made the trade call. I'm going too far back, aren't I? It was last year. Two years ago, sorry. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Am I on the daily? That's why. All right, hold on. Who was there in Lagos? We were at that nice hotel, and the other multi-level marketing group were in the opposite room. They just happened to be there as I came to town. And one guy schooled me saying I was a small boy. What's this drawing? He's been trading for 10 years. And we actually had a bet because he thought that Euro USD was going to 120. I said that Euro USD was flying down 300 pips. Many people were there to witness. It was actually a great time. So this was the chart that we looked at. I always remember this because this is what kind of got me attention in Nigeria. This particular rhombus over here. Let me see. Oh, but you heard of it, yeah. No, I said there's more risk trading trend than range. All right, so this is what we drew. Let me show you. Point A to B, space, and then you can see time. Can everybody see that? Can everybody see the space? Everyone can see the time? When you can see space and time, you can draw your angle. Now I draw my triangle, and remember what I said. Where you want to contain price in the first triangle has to do more with time and angle than it does with space. So this is what it looks like over here. You have to try your best to try and contain as much of it as possible because your projection will count on it. So a few wicks here and there, that's fine, but you don't want to have any bodies that are outside. So I think this is okay. Rough example, all right? So now you see that there is a wick that is poking out of the top of the triangle. So what I'm going to do is make this line above point C. What is it? So this is 118, 141. You can do a nice 50 pips on that. So my line is going to be red to mark my stop loss. And my entry is going to be the point where it breaks outside of the first triangle. I'm going to make that green. Now let's draw the rest of this rhombus. A to B, I've been able to copy it successfully, put it onto the side of C. Now, for those who are probably thinking, why is C all the way out here? It's because we had to make sure all of this was contained inside. That is why it's all the way out there, all right? If I put the triangle right where C was, as I did my example, this is what the rhombus would have looked like. So that is why it has to be dragged out to make sure everything fit within inside the first triangle. So we have that. Point C to D is now drawn. And what you can do as a quick shortcut is draw a second triangle going from A to C to D. Makes it look cleaner. Now let's find our take profit 1, take profit 2, and take profit 3. And this is not the reason why I asked for people who are witnesses to this is because we all traded this. This became big noise in the former MLM company that we were in. And it's like, oh, Africans are now talking too much because I have this Rhombus thing. It became a very, very big craze. Taglines like Rhombus is blood money and Rhombus is the new currency and all those sort of things came because we finally saw results that didn't result in, you know, having a $10,000 account and trading 3 or 4 pips and making $1,000 out of it. We were able to have our own thing that allowed us to make a lot of money. So you can see this distance here. And this is the scenario. I'm going head to head with a trader who claims 10 years experience, and I'm on my way to my 4th year. And I'm saying that price is likely to go down to here before it touches 120. That's a bold claim, don't you think? So this is what happened. We all traded this. We all held this for about 3 months, and people were just amazed. Let me show you the pip distance of each interval. So take profit 1 was only 138. Take profit 2, about 320. Take profit 3, 480. We traded this. So this is how it went down, okay? This is around when FOMC happened. Let me zoom in so you can see what's happening with the candles. You can see the break of the first triangle, nice and clean. And that's when our entry was. So you can see that it hit take profit 1 fairly quickly. And take profit 3 took a long time, but it eventually wicked take profit 3, and then you saw a change in structure. Okay, let me try and speed this up because I know we all don't have all night. But look at this. See that there was a break in structure, a nice retest of structure. It played around for a bit, but it actually got there, which is quite neat. It was this trade alone that caused so much noise that many people heard of the village that day. And thousands were added to their number, right? Look, even inside here as a trend trader, you can see impulses and corrections inside this rhombus. Impulse, correction. What do? Counter trend line. Those things you'll be able to see as you're trading trends. Because rhombus gives you the big picture of what's going on. You can see that now take profit 2 was hit. This is not made up. We traded this. Those I wish people who I'm wondering who on this list was actually in that room. See, you have another impulse that has taken place. I think we drew a correction over here like this. See the power of trading the trend. It takes a long time to get there, but when you know your impulse and correction, you know, all right? See what happened at take profit 3. Now look at the market, what happens in the market from there at that take profit 3. And the beautiful thing when you draw your rhombus, which you will learn in the rhombus mastery, is that these levels that we've drawn, our take profit levels, they become reference points in the future and reference points into the past, okay? But you can see that drop a 111 if you see that. It's quite neat to draw, okay? Now, if we cancel all of this and we look at the day, what has been going on, you can see that Euro USD has been playing around from the lines that we had drawn from last year or almost 2 years ago. Okay, look at all this bouncing between support and resistance. It broke, retested, broke on down, retested again. It came on down, came all the way up, touched this line, came back down, retest, and look and see where the market is now. Okay, so it's a very, very powerful tool to be able to trade with. If you're cool with this, drop a Y or a yes in the chat box.